We don't have any rules on this show.
Well,
what we do, but they're loose rules.
Rules-ish.
I mean, it might be too early for a beer, but we'll have a beer. You're welcome to do that. If you use colorful language, that's fine. What are our other rules?
I mean, it's early for beer, but if you are and you want to burp, lean in. We like both on the show. Nigel gets very judgy.
No,
he likes to judge your burps.
At least
Okay.
barely. I don't.
Again, do you?
I mean, fair.
Is this Nigel style coffee?
Of course it is. You ready to start the show?
I don't know. Should we do it?
And we've kind of already
I
started.
mean, I feel like it. I feel like we should go. Let's go.
Beers with Nigel is poured for you by Dire Oil Graphics, promotional products and design. They cover your brand bumper to bumper with graphic design, promo products, and print. See what Dire Oil Graphics can build for you at direoil.com. That's DYEROIL.com.
Welcome to Beers with Nigel. It's a show about beer
and other things.
And other stuff.
It
depends on
stuff, whatever.
It depends on who you're talking to.
Or which of our logos you're reading.
I mean, fair point. Welcome to the show, Sherry Wohlgemuth. Did I say it correctly?
You did indeed.
Executive Director of the Missouri Craft Brewers Guild. Welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
This is probably our most, we talked to a lot of beer things, people. This is probably our most official one we've ever had.
I know.
We've never had a guild on before. We have to be on our P's and Q's.
I kind of feel like maybe should I wear a collared shirt?
Oh, yeah. We're real strict with the Brewers Guild. We're very, uptight, neckties and formal suits and all that. So
I mean, one would assume that, right?
I mean, was this a tuxedo show?
No beer in the building.
I'm probably going to get docked cred points for not having a beer at 11 o'clock in the morning. So
I mean,
it's all good.
I appreciate you backing it up because shout out to Grains and Taps downtown Lee Summit and their head brewer, Brian Freimiller. He's getting married today. And so Nick and I are going to go shoot his wedding.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah. So, so thanks for backing it up. He'll appreciate it. Shout out to Brian and Laura.
Cheers.
Nuptials.
Congratulations.
Hey.
So before we get into the guild stuff, obviously we want to find out about you and, your beer journey. And we always ask the question, everybody was drinking something and then something turned you on to craft beer.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your background in beer. How'd you get into the beer business?
Well, just by pure love of craft beer, honestly. I'm going to age myself, but, like everybody else, we are all drinking something. Right. The year I graduated from college, our first brew pub opened in Columbia, and I went to school at Mizzou. So Flat Branch Brewing opened, and it's still there, still kicking, still cranking out some great beer.
Yeah.
And, it became our little hangout, and all of a sudden beer, had flavor and texture and taste. And I never went back from that point. I also always credit, Unfiltered Wheat from Boulevard. That kind of broke the seal, if you will. And then I took a little road trip right after graduation and went to Fort Collins area. And I had Fat Tire for the first time. And nobody really, it was still really tiny. Nobody knew really much about them. And I fell in love. So it was, ever since then, I want to taste all of the beers.
All of the beers.
All of the beers.
So what were you drinking at Mizzou? I'm interested to see what you were drinking back then.
Oh, man. Let's see. It was always about, price point when you're a college student. At the time.
What was the cheap suitcase?
Yeah. We could get a case of Rhinelander in long neck bottles for like $12 or something like that. So that often showed up at the parties I was going to.
I have never Rhinelander.
It's terrible. It's terrible.
I've never even heard of that.
We were Keystone Light. A lot of people were the Natty Light, but I haven't heard anybody say Rhinelander.
Who made that? You know who made that?
I think it was someplace in Wisconsin, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to Google it. Honestly, I kind of blocked that part of my life out of my mind. It was terrible.
That's fair.
That's a new one. Right.
There were a lot of natty lights consumed as well. So yeah, whatever we could get our hands on, it was cheap.
I like that Fat Tire being kind of a changer there. I think that was the early one for me as well.
Yeah,
I remember the first Fat Tire,
and a lot of people shout out Boulevard Wheat as well. So
yeah,
I guess Boulevard did. Because back then it wasn't called craft, right? It was just
right. It was just beer. Microbrew, exactly.
Yeah. And before that, it was premium.
Yeah.
That was just the special foil.
Yeah, I was showing somebody the other day when Michelob had like Michelob Dark and
right.
I
remember that.
Yeah, and that, they were fancy because they had the foil and it seemed way more fancy than a Coors Light or a Budweiser. So you've been a beer person for a while. What before we get into the guilds business, do you have some you've been to the Denver area, obviously, and Fort Collins, that sort of places. Where in your journey do you have some cities that you're like, oh my God, these are great beer cities?
Oh man, San Francisco was freaking awesome. There was so much good beer in San Francisco. I got to take a trip with my husband out there. He had an office thing, and while he was doing that, I was sampling beer. So
nice.
And
perfect
probably the coolest thing we did out there was a beer festival that was put on by the San Francisco Brewers Guild that was on an old warship that's in the bay there.
Wow.
And so we literally climbed up this rickety ladder to the top of the boat and sampled beer, and it was amazing. It was so cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I was in Frisco a couple of months ago, and the beers are really, really good. And there's a lot of breweries too.
I want beers on a battleship.
It's called I think beers on the I'm messing up the name, but it's a cool festival. It's in October. You should look it up and make a trip out there. It's awesome.
Oh, that sounds fantastic.
Brews on the Bay. Maybe that's what it's called. Brews on the Bay. Something like that.
I have to ask my friend about it because that would be cool.
Yeah, it was awesome. Very, very cool.
So how'd you get involved in the guild?
Well, again, through my love of craft beer, I happened to meet one of the owners of Piney River Brewing Company in Bucyrus, Missouri, and Jolene Center-Durham. And at the time, she and her husband were a big part of the Brewers Guild. Still are, but she was the president. And they decided there was a couple of legislative issues that needed attention. And the brewers kind of galvanized around those issues and decided they needed someone to help herd the cats. So they put out a job description, and I happened to see it on the Piney River social media, and I thought I could do this job. I have a background in business organizations. I worked for the Chamber of Commerce for a number of years, and so I thought I'm just going to throw my hat in the ring, and it was a perfect fit for me. So I've been trucking away ever since.
What were those early issues?
Well, there was a large macro brewer you might be familiar with on the eastern side of the state. They were working on there's this guy. They were pushing heavily to get to allow distributors to put refrigerated cooling units in retail establishments that were branded. So our craft brewers said, no, thank you. They can't compete with that. They can't,
right.
It was just really a way to kind of squash any attempts for craft brewers to have brand recognition in the retail outlet. So it made it through into the statute, but only by like a couple of votes because the craft brewers rallied together and pushed back hard. So that was kind of the beginning that let everybody know we need to get together and work hard, to keep things fair for everyone.
When was that? I'm trying to figure out the timing.
It would have been like 2016, probably when it was first introduced, 2016, 2017, around there.
Not that long ago.
And then I came on in 2018. So it's been a journey to just make sure we can keep things fair and equitable.
So how long has the guild been a guild? When did that all start?
Well, it's actually been around since probably, I think, unofficially 2011. John McDonald from Boulevard and Dan Kopman, who at the time was the co-founder of Schlafly in St. Louis. Those guys were the first two big breweries craft breweries in the state, and they got together to try to work on some legislation to make it easier for more craft breweries to come aboard. So that was the beginning. And then, they worked toward getting more breweries involved. And as more and more came to open, they kind of rallied them together. But everybody's still trying to run their business and do their jobs, make some beer. So rallying volunteers and getting, support from the community wasn't really easy to do while you're trying to do all those other things as well. So here I came into the scene to try to help do that.
Heard the cats.
Heard the cats. Exactly.
I would think it would be hard to pick and choose what things to really rally people around, because every state deals with old and archaic liquor laws and laws around beer and distribution, and then to try to focus in on things that are going to help the craft brewers, the small guys, seems an even more daunting task.
Yeah.
It is a daunting task, but we, because of our friends on the eastern side of the state, actually have a pretty nice setup in Missouri for craft breweries to be here. We have to give credit where credit's due, and so I often, acknowledge that their hard work in the early days made it easier for craft breweries to exist here.
Right.
We have some of the lowest excise taxes in the country, and that is very attractive for craft brewing. And a lot of people don't realize how much goes into the taxation component and the regulation component. And so because of the efforts that the bigger brewery had made throughout the years, it does make it a nicer environment. Now, I just know that because I've seen what's happening in other parts of the country. So when you're living in it day to day, it may not be, as apparent, but we do have a pretty good environment here.
So how would you describe like the guild's mission when it comes to, helping craft brewers?
Well, we exist to help protect that industry and also to promote it. Protection is probably our main focus, and just making sure that things are not going in a direction that would make business more difficult for the craft brewers. And then, of course, just promoting craft beer and the love of craft beer. And we have lots of fans in the state of Missouri, and, promoting beer tourism. A lot of people will travel. I know that's the first thing I do when I go to a new city is check out where the breweries are. And I know a lot of other people do that too, and maybe even plan vacations around beer cities. So, we're trying to work with our local Convention and Visitors Bureau and the State Department of Tourism to just really encourage folks to travel around and try new things.
As far as like the membership of 'cause I'm assuming, are most breweries in the guild? How's that work, and how do you go about like saying you should be in here because we're going to help you?
Yeah, we have about 50% penetration right now of the number of breweries that are members. We're always recruiting more people to be part of the guild, and we'll be working on these issues and working for them, whether they're a member or not. But I think the biggest value for a brewer who's not a member is to get involved and become part of that community. They're already part of the community, but to really get engaged and connected and networked with people all across the state is probably the biggest value for a non-member to get involved.
Hear that, brewers? Get involved. Quit screwing around.
How much of your job is kind of running around the state, talking to the brewers and getting them, trying to get them to join the choir?
It's a good portion of it. Typically, we rotate events, networking events around the state, and so when we are in those different regions where the breweries are kind of all together, I will usually head there a couple days early so I can visit breweries and talk to them one-on-one. And I'm slowly working my way around the state to get in and talk to everyone. It's not always easy because the brewer is the owner, is the janitor, is the
right.
They have a lot of hats. but it is a good portion of my job. And I rely on my board members who are also very engaged to reach out to their peers and say, why aren't you part of this organization? So that's also been very effective and helpful for us.
So is it a requirement if you're going around and visiting breweries that you have to have a beer at each one?
It's not a requirement. But I mean,
what are you talking about?
other duties as assigned.
Other duties as assigned. Yeah, it's a tough part of the job, honestly.
If you need an intern or interns, Nick and I, we're pretty good at going around and
we like the title flight specialist.
I like that.
You just made that up, didn't you?
No, I don't know what
feel
you're
like
talking about.
that needs to be on a T-shirt, I think.
Beer flight specialist. I like it.
Put that on the list.
Put that on our merch list. Yes. As much as I'm enjoying the Nigel coffee,
I think it's time for mystery beer.
It's time for mystery beer. So,
mystery beer.
So normally we have a jingle that we play. Shout out to Bree Burrows because it's her. Shout out to Big Rip.
Nice.
It's her thing. But here's the mystery beer bag, right? You can tell it came from a golf course. We don't know which one.
It's got burn holes in the bottom.
So
a fire at some point.
So this all started, back BC before COVID.
Yeah.
Started out with Nick.
We did 4 episodes.
Yeah, Nick really wasn't into craft beer, so I did the mystery beer thing. We used to have them in brown paper bags, but we've moved on.
Classed ourselves up.
No, it's just a bag. So I'll pull out a mystery beer and hand it to Nick, and he gets to.
What do we got here?
Definitely, it's alma mater.
This is alma mater.
Yeah, alma mater.
Ooh, good stuff.
Oh,
yeah, they're fun. We hung out with Nick Mater a couple weeks ago after
with Mrs. Alma Mater.
Yeah,
yes.
Nick. I think Nick was there. I don't remember. Anyway, they're good people.
Yes.
While we're doing the mystery beer, let's shout out our newest sponsor, Brewview, Missouri, and is it New Hampshire?
Vermont.
Yeah.
So, there needs to be a New Hampshire.
We keep messing up and saying New Hampshire, like giving him a third magazine. So I think he needs to open one.
There you go, John.
Because we said so.
Shout out to New Hampshire.
I'm sure John appreciates that.
Let's see, what do we got here?
Yeah,
Landa Manana.
Okay.
Double milk stout with chili, cinnamon, and vanilla. I love this.
Ooh, that sounds delicious.
Oh, you've had it before.
I think we just had this on Sunday Fun Day last week.
Probably. Was that last week or was it 2 weeks ago?
I don't know.
Yeah, we decided to do 2 podcasts in one day.
Might not have been a good idea, but it was a fun idea.
So, shout out to Strange Days. That's where we started. They were a lot of fun, and then we went down to Alma Mater, and then shout out to Jazzy Bees, and then shout out to Beale Street Brewing in Memphis.
I feel a little bad for Beale Street. We were not at the top of our game by the end of that night.
Yeah, a noon podcast and a 7 p.m. podcast. Not the greatest thing.
With a couple of beers in between. Just a couple.
Just a couple.
So do you, as long as while we're talking about beer, do you have styles that you like that you gravitate to? What are you drinking? What do you normally drink?
Oh gosh, it's kind of seasonal for me. I don't really think there's a style that I don't enjoy, so I kind of switch it up. I've really been enjoying a lot of the lagers and pilsners that people are cranking out these days. There's been some really good stuff. Love a stout and a porter in the cooler months. I'm all over the place. IPA is probably my favorite style.
Okay.
I will say I'm a tiny bit over the hazy IPA trend,
A lot of people are, yeah.
I love a good, clear, crispy, piney, resinous IPA, West Coast style.
West Coast. Yep.
Yeah.
West Coast.
Yeah, that leads to the typical Beers with Nigel question. Then she said seasonal. Is there a stout season?
She said there was.
Well, for me, there is. I know a lot of people enjoy a nice stout on a 90-degree day, and that's awesome, but it's not me.
I just want to get that on the record.
So this is a really tasty beer. I don't remember the ABV.
I don't.
We like to play a game where we guess the ABV. We're not really
That
good
can
at
be dangerous.
We like to play at Price is Right rules.
Yeah.
So close without going over, and then the winner gets to keep the can or finish the can.
I'm gonna say it's probably 8%.
I was gonna say around that. I'll go 8.2 just to.
Okay. Did you see it?
Just to bob you. Oh, You're spot on. 8%.
A boom. It's my beer.
Nice.
Is it?
Yeah, I can't reach it, so it's hidden behind our tiny refrigerator. We have a tiny beer refrigerator that I found on Amazon for $40.
Nice.
It fits exactly 6 beers.
Hang on.
That is tiny.
So there it is right
Oh, that's
So-
very cute.
there. And that's branded as well. It's right on brand. Just slap a sticker on there. We're good to go.
I have a whole pile of other beer stickers because I figure we have to follow the trend, right? And put brewery stickers all over it. So
Yes.
Yeah. So go ahead.
I'm still mourning the loss of my beer fridge. Last year, it was completely covered in stickers and it died. And I tried to peel off as many as I could.
No.
It didn't work.
You almost have to take off the door and save the door, right?
Yes. I was devastated.
It just means you need another trip around the breweries.
Exactly.
Is that what that means?
I think so.
More beer. It means more beer.
So in your travels around or your in your role as in the guild, do you have any weird stories? I feel like if you're going around and hitting breweries and you're talking to people, there's probably some interesting things that happen. I mean, it's probably not all business.
Oh, I'm trying to think. I honestly don't know. It's been pretty tame, I guess. Nothing crazy has happened yet.
That's why you need two interns.
Right, you need a couple of flight specialists to tag along.
I agree.
Here's what I think. We would make this a little more specific because they're always different depending on what space they can get to open their breweries. Like, where are the weird coolers? Like, who's got the weird cooler room?
The weird cooler room. Let's see. Oh my gosh. I don't know. I will say Bees Knees in Versailles, Missouri. Chris and his team has done an amazing job of using the space down to every inch. And I think in his previous life, he did a lot of planning and he has got it down. Like everything has its place, and the cooler, he's just got it situated exactly in the building, taking up exactly how much space it needs. And it's really impressive to me because the brew house area is not that big, but he's utilized every single inch of space, and it's pretty incredible.
I feel like a lot of these guys are have mad Tetris game.
Right? Oh, heck yeah.
I mean, you have to.
Yes.
I was talking to somebody yesterday about breweries, and we were talking specifically about Vine Street Brewing, who have yet to open, but space goes quickly.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, shout out to Grains and Taps. They opened a second location, got a bigger brew house, got a much bigger cooler. It's all filled. Oh yeah, it looks so much bigger. It's much bigger than what they had, but it's already bursting at the seams. So
yes.
Well, that's like Vine Street's place, which they're 2 weeks away, right? They've been 2 weeks away for 2 years.
Well,
I think
soon,
opening soon. But you first walk into that building, it's huge, and now you look at it, you're like, oh wait,
yeah,
there's not that much left.
There's not much. Yeah. So
it's easy to outgrow that space very quickly.
And I mean, you've been at it for a while, right? You've seen the growth. What's that been like from your perspective, from the Guild's perspective? Because we know as consumers and going and podcasting at these places, Kansas City, the scene is like still expanding. What's it been like for you on your end?
I mean, I agree all over the state. I mean, even in the middle of COVID, we had people opening up and they're still going. So I think, typically how trends work in the United States, things happen on the coast and work their way to the middle. I think we're just getting ready to hit our peak, honestly. I think we've got a lot of growth still. There's still some markets that are, there's more beer or more breweries coming online as we're talking about this in Kansas City, in Springfield, in St. Louis area, in middle of Missouri. So, I mean, there's still room, I think. And, it's pretty exciting to see this. Now on a nationwide trend, there's been more closings since COVID.
Yeah.
So, we're keeping our eyes on that too, but I still think we have a pretty good stretch ahead of us.
I mean, it's, as much as we go around, people, it's so saturated. I'm like,
No,
you haven't been to some of these other cities.
Yeah,
Well, did
right.
you see, the story, our buddies that do the Barrel and Flow Fest in August in Pittsburgh,
Yeah.
they just put out an article that had listed the top beer cities in the country, and,
Right.
and Pittsburgh had been ranked one. But you see who number 17 and number 18 were?
Who?
Kansas City 17, St. Louis 18.
Really?
So just out of that top 15,
Wow.
which I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it's cool to see, but we're way, I feel like we're way behind. I mean, you go to, like, obviously Denver comes to mind, but even cities like, I always shout out Oklahoma City. They're younger than us.
Yeah.
I feel like they were top 10 in that list.
They're younger than us. Maybe not. They've had breweries for 10 years, but as far as tap rooms, their legislation, you could have a brewery, but you can have a tap room, which was stupid. But that's a whole nother thing. But Oklahoma City, downtown Oklahoma City, has 10 breweries. It's crazy. So I think we're kind of behind.
Well, I like seeing, and I don't know if this is like this in the other states, but in Missouri, where you're seeing more and more of like these rural cities that are outside of the hubs that are starting. I mean, you just said for sale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're starting to pick up and have, one or two or three. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, I think there's still room for growth. I mean, I don't know if you guys have been down to Springfield, but it's hopping down there. There's a lot going on. There's at least 10 craft breweries. There's more coming online down there.
Yeah.
And they've really embraced the culture, and it's hopping. You need to make a trip.
Yeah, they're on our
They're on our list.
They're on our list.
Yes.
We're actually going to be our first trip, but then you know what happened? COVID happened.
Yeah.
Stupid COVID.
Yeah.
Ruined everything.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna do I've got my buddy Brian working for us to do go down there for a couple of days and hit like 3 or 4 breweries and podcast from all of them.
Yeah.
So,
well, and we always talk about, this is outside of Missouri, but we always talk about Eureka Springs. It's only got 2, but it's got some good beer happening out of that tiny little tourist town.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, it's like Hamilton, Missouri.
Yeah.
I mean, Levi Garrison and Sons, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Who would think there would be a brewery there? But there is.
Yes.
Gardner, Kansas, places in these, these outposts. It's like, but it's cool when you find out, there's a brewery there. Like, we've got one of our buddies, came out of our homebrew club, ZZ Hops here, and he left Kansas City and opened up a brewery in Spencer, Iowa for some reason, but it's been super successal.
Yeah.
There's no other brewery. It's the only thing in town, basically. It's a brewery.
Yeah.
So
what are some I'm not gonna ask you to play favorites or anything, but like some surprises. We're like, oh, that town, and there's beer. Have there been some of those surprises?
Oh gosh, definitely. I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever made it down to Bucyrus, Missouri. I mentioned them earlier, Piney River.
Yeah.
That's a destination for sure. And I mean, it's like a village. There's not a whole lot there, and the brewery is like a big part of that community. And it's amazing that there's beer there, and it's thriving. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of places like that. I think. I don't know. It's. I'm at a loss now. I'm just trying to think of it.
I mean, that's a tough question for you because you're all over the place. So.
Yeah.
That's like what people ask me. They're like, "Well, what's your favorite brewery?" I'm like, "Well, I don't."
Well, that's why I wasn't trying to ask favorites. I know. It's you're traveling around like, oh, there, or you just get a notice in your email. Well, heck, I'm going there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a brewery in Carrollton, Missouri. I don't know if you know where Carrollton, Missouri is. There's a brewery there.
That is.
So yeah, I mean, they're picking up in all different places. There's one in Joplin now. There's one in Alba, Missouri, which is outside of Springfield. So I mean, they're just popping up everywhere, and I think they become that community hub in those towns where there's not a lot going on. So they're serving a great purpose for the community.
Yeah. So as you go around and you talk to these breweries, what type of things are you hearing from them that maybe they need help with, or what you want you guys to do? What sort of things are happening right now?
Well, I think first and foremost is that craft beer or beer sales in general are down, and they've been down over this last year. So I think everybody's a little nervous about that. I think more and more breweries are considering making other beverages to appeal to a wider audience. And of course, we know a lot of them are already doing that. They're making ciders or seltzers. And I think that's going to be a trend, honestly, just to keep people coming into the tap room. And I know that's something that we're just keeping an eye on it. I don't know that we can do anything necessarily as an organization to help that, other than just, keep promoting the craft brewing industry. Other things that we're really focused on is, access to market, and working with distributors can be quite a challenge for smaller breweries. Yeah. So we have the ability in the state of Missouri to do some self-distribution based on the type of license that the brewery holds. Right. And for some, that's been a real win to get them into the market. And then they become a more attractive partner with a distributor because they've already established, themselves in the market. It takes a lot of money and a lot of hard work to make that happen. But, we would like that path to be a little easier for our craft breweries. And, shelf space is always a big concern too. Yeah. With the seltzers and the things happening in the other parts of adult beverages, you're seeing a lot of shelf space disappear because these other products are coming in and taking that space away from everyone. So we're trying to, keep our eye on that too and see what we can do to help.
It's interesting to see some of my friends who've opened breweries, and some distribute, some are with a distributor. It's an interesting moving target sometimes, especially when you talk about the shelf space in the stores, because you've got other people's reps coming in and moving stuff, and
yes,
you really have to be diligent and have somebody that can go and hit the stores you're in to make sure everything is copacetic. Because even sometimes people at the store don't have a clue, and they'll stick something, and I've seen it where they stick something in because they've got a local beer section in the Hy-Vee over here. And I'm like, that's not a local beer. Why is it in that section?
Yes.
Why is it taking up that space,
I do the same thing. Like, that's not made around here.
Yeah, because the retailer doesn't always know.
Right.
No, they don't. And every store is different. There's 2 Hy-Vees here in Lee Summit. And, the liquor departments it's 2 probably different philosophies. One is more craft beer centric, and the other one, oh, there's beer here.
Why is the beer where the wine should be?
So it's an interesting challenge for breweries.
How is it making those relationships with legislators? To talk to them and try to get them to think about beer and to think about the craft brewers, because it's those aren't the conversations that are making the highlight reels.
Right. We do an annual trip down to the Capitol and bring brewery owners with us, and we walk around and we talk to legislators and we can't share samples there, but that's what everybody's request is. Next time bring beer with you. But I think beer. I know beer is nonpartisan, so it opens doors. So we have been lucky in that we can get in and talk to a lot of folks about our small businesses, how many people they employ, their impact on the community. And, it's important. And I think we're opening eyes, slowly, one by one. We're not walking through the hallways writing giant checks like other breweries can. So we, ours, we're really trying to make some relationships so that when there is an issue, we can make a phone call and say, hey, this really impacts my business.
Yeah.
That's sort of the basis of a lot of politics, is just, who do you know and how can you leverage those relationships to, better improve your situation. So that's what we're focusing on, is just building relationships. And like I said, beer opens doors. So it's kind of nice.
Imagine. Yeah. Like during COVID, this was the thing that drove me crazy, when they were determining who was essential and who was this and who was that and who should close. And it always drove me crazy. I'm like, a brewery is not a bar. It's not a bar. Those are 2 different animals, and they were lumping them all together. And it was maddening because, oh, you guys are this, or even, in some other states, they had the benefit of being, oh, they're in manufacturing, so they can do whatever they want. It's the rules are weird. And as a craft beer guy, I want to defend the castle, right? We're going to defend the castle. No, we are not a damn bar. So it's crazy.
That's the exact messaging that we use going into COVID and the shutdowns. We said these are manufacturers and they're essential. And technically beer is food. So food manufacturers were considered essential. So we pushed that point to allow everyone to stay open that could. So, I mean, that's, we were the same way. We're not a bar.
Well, and to get everybody to allow the to-goes, right? I mean, that was huge for those businesses to stay open.
Yes.
We wouldn't have had as many. I mean, we can think here in Kansas City, very few that didn't make it through. What, 2?
They didn't die because of COVID.
Right.
I mean, that was other things.
But I mean, if they weren't able to do to-goes, if they weren't able
that would have been awful. Yeah.
Right. That would have killed some of them.
Yes, absolutely.
Wait, and shout out to Diametric Brewing, because they did that whole Together We Can thing, and that turned into a whole. I was on the front lines the first day of that, and that was an experience in itself, and it morphed into something that was super. Let's do it because we need to get beer out, and then it turned into this whole thing that was. I mean, it was almost a statewide thing where people were bringing beer from all over.
It was, yeah.
And then we had people driving in from Arkansas to come pick up beer. It was
Arkansas, Nebraska. I mean, people
would the craziest
load their trunks with beer. But that's what's cool about the interplay between the breweries and the beer drinkers is they will show up.
And that's we always laugh on this podcast. It's like, what other business will? Oh, you want my recipe? You want this? You want that? No other business really shares like that. It's an interesting. I don't know, world
dynamic.
Yeah.
But it's cool. Words are hard. Let's keep it real. Beer is food, because you could live off of beer. You wouldn't die.
I mean, that's what those monks do, right? I mean, that's
after at the end of brew day, you've got granola.
There you go. Right. You got all the things.
You got it all.
It's fine.
Fruits, vegetables? Question mark? Maybe.
Exactly.
Depending on the beer.
We might make a carrot cake stout. There you go.
Oh.
So
you touched on a point that I think is probably my favorite component of this industry is that sense of community and the fact that everybody technically competes with each other, but they share everything.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes this such a great community. Just that camaraderie and support. And I almost everyone believes that a rising tide lifts all ships. So they work hard to help each other out so that craft beer excels. And I think that's beautiful.
and it's even in this area, most of the guys who open breweries were homebrewers together. So it's kind of like, we all grew up and went pro together. So it's still like
it's an extension of the club.
Yeah, it's still doing what we've always been doing. It's just on a bigger scale.
Yes.
You're getting paid for it now.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's like, well, maybe not in the beginning.
You could be paying a bank. I don't know.
Yeah.
Hey, look, all you need is $15,000, and you too can open a brewery.
Shout out to Sandhills. That's what they thought. Cheapest brewery ever. Why are you drinking my beer over there?
Because it was there.
Heard.
Uh-oh.
You want to do another mystery beer?
Well, then I'll have to finish this.
I mean, you don't have to.
Of course I do.
I'll let you pick it out. Mystery beer.
Shout
out to Bree. Maybe the mystery beers are brought to you by Brewview, Missouri, New Hampshire, and with
Vermont.
Sorry, John.
No, John's just gonna open a third magazine. It's fine. Congratulations, John. You're expanding.
We got to shout them out though, because they're really pushing. I know they're pushing what they call it, the makers or the creators, and they put all things beer in their magazine, which is kind of cool. Because John's a passionate guy. He really is, and I love what he's doing. I mean, to be able to take that publication and really be in another state and do it from Missouri is kind of cool.
It really is. He's been a great supporter of the Guild. He's a member of our organization, and he's done a lot to rally the troops together and get them in that magazine and help. And he's a big part of us, promoting craft beer across the state. So
yeah, I love
Couldn't do it without him.
those magazines during the rest stops.
I know,
I think that's awesome.
every rest stop in the state. That's
I'm
awesome.
like, that's pretty cool. What you got there, bud?
Also from another road trip of ours,
Yeah.
little Kansas City road trip, Double Shift Brewing.
Nice.
I just saw the ABV.
Never-
Uh-oh.
Tessellation Mosaic
Oh.
IPA.
Yeah,
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's one of their OGs. You're gonna do one of those. Oh, that's nice.
It's all right.
That's nice. Oh, I guess I need to drink this one to put that beer in there.
No, you don't.
And normally we have more than one glass. That's the thing.
Ah, yes.
I was lazy. I only pulled out 2.
And they're right in front of him. So here we are.
Like, we don't put a lot of effort into the making of this show.
Well, you got beer and you got microphones. What else do you need?
Exactly my point. We've got Sherry, so now it's perfect.
And how long have you been with the guild?
About 4.5 years now.
4.5 years. What has it been personally for you? Because obviously it's a great industry. You're a beer lover, but to have this position, it's got to be kind of cool, right?
Oh man, I feel like the luckiest person on the planet. It's all the skill set I have and the love of beer all comes together. And it's like that saying, if you do something you love, you never work a day in your life. And that's what I feel like. I feel like this is where I'm supposed to be. And I really enjoy everything I'm doing and every person I meet. And there's a lot of great stories out there. And it's just a great job. I love it.
Well, that's what pulls us in too, is right. You meet people and there's great stories.
Everybody's
everywhere.
got a story. Yeah.
Yes,
Everywhere. And beer is, as you just said, beer opens doors.
it does.
And it gets people talking.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's how this podcast came about. We're like, everybody, I know it's even when I'm beer tending, because I work at 3 breweries, and I'm like, even it's almost like I'm doing the show behind the bar.
Yeah.
Because I'm always asking, what turned you on to craft beer? It's an interesting. Everybody has a different story.
That's right.
Some of them, like some of the people we've talked to, how they got into brewing. There's always a Mr. Beer kit.
Right.
Yes.
Or the one more recently, I did not know. Shout out to Garrett Oliver that there's a Brooklyn beer.
Yeah, we just learned that.
beer kit that was something got
Ooh.
people involved. So
Wow.
I'm not sure that's even a thing anymore.
I
But
don't know, we need to research and find that.
Maybe there's still some of those floating around out there.
there's probably
We're going thrifting.
there's
I got it at the Goodwill. Let's do this.
How
did you get into the beer game? Well,
I was at
the
Goodwill
thrift store.
it's a beer kit.
And I saw this beer kit for $5.
So yeah, that's
Oh,
yeah. So basically, you're kind of doing what we do. You just don't record it because you're just going around getting
right.
great stories. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So as far as like Columbia, are you from there?
No, I wound up here for college and just stayed. So
Where'd you start?
I've lived all over the place actually. I grew up in Denver for a while, and then moved to Hannibal, Missouri, and then that's where I graduated from high school, and then I came down here to go to college and stayed. So yeah.
So what's the state of affairs brewery wise in Columbia? There's only a few.
We've got 4 breweries in Columbia.
What's the population? It's like 100,000.
I think we're like 130 now, close to 130.
So that's comparable.
But then you throw in a giant university.
You add another 30,000 students. We actually have 2 other private colleges plus the university, and a couple of community colleges have campuses here. So we've got a lot of college students here in Columbia.
I don't know if you know this, Nigel. College students tend to drink beer.
They do indeed.
But the question is, do college students go to breweries to drink beer?
I feel like more than they used to.
I'm sure now. But and I'm surprised that you feel like a college town like that would have more than 4 breweries. But then again, I think about like Lawrence or a place like that. They only have 4.
I feel like there's probably some science and engineering students who have some unauthorized breweries.
Yeah, maybe so. I'm not sure about that.
Home brewing is legal, so it's not unauthorized.
As long as you're not selling it somewhere.
Well, right. Nobody's selling their home brews, I'm sure. That'd be bad. I'm like, no, I'm not going to pay you for that. I'm sorry.
I don't know. You can get your colleague students to pay for just about anything.
Fair point. Fair point.
I mean, I may or may not have spent money on stupid things when I was in college.
I didn't have any money, so
No admissions here.
There was nothing like that for me. And plus, I went to a Christian college, so you know how that went.
Well, and that was like 1930.
Wow, it just got
laughing.
real.
You're laughing too hard at his jokes. That's this is show's over.
He got fired.
So let's talk about, is it Craft Beer Month that's coming up?
Yes. We ever since we kind of organized the guild a little bit more, we've been trying to focus on that promotion aspect, and so we have self-designated June as the Craft Beer Month. Show Me Craft Beer Month in the state of Missouri.
It.
So we're focused on really just getting the word out about craft beer, encouraging people to try new things, go beyond your local brewery, try another brewery in another county, another city, and experience all that craft beer has to offer. So that's kind of our promotion for the month. And we're doing that in a few different ways. So we're going to kick off the month with our very first Guild Festival. It'll be at Schlafly Bottle Works in Maplewood, St. Louis area. They're hosting us in their beautiful space and their parking lot. They have a 2-acre parking lot, so we can cram it full of craft breweries from all over the state. And that's Saturday, June 3rd. So that'll be the official kickoff for Show Me Craft Beer Month. And then a project that we've been doing basically since COVID, what we do a collaboration brew across the state.
Yeah. And
our second quarter collaboration beer will be released. People at the festival will get to sample it there, and then it'll be available to the general public the week after at all of our participating breweries. Then the week after that, we're doing a promotion about flights. So we need our flight attendants to help us promote that. We're encouraging all of our brewery members to put together a flight that represents their most innovative styles. And we're just going to push that that week, second week, third week of June to get everybody to try new things. I mean, that's, sometimes you get stuck in a rut. So we want people to try some different beers and experience some different flavors. And then the week after that, we have the Missouri Pint Day, special promotion for participating breweries. They can, craft beer lovers can go to their brewery and get a special pint that celebrates craft beer in Missouri. So we're excited about that. And then we kind of wrap the whole month up with a gathering in St. Louis at Side Project with all of our members. That's part of our rotational thing. Every quarter, we get everybody together and just it's a networking event and a way to just connect with our membership. So that's how we'll wrap the month up, is gathering our members together and celebrating. So we're looking forward to it.
Awesome.
June's gonna be popping.
It's popping. There's a lot going on.
I feel like we're gonna have to change our social media game and celebrate that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm looking at you because you do.
I'm happy to send you guys some graphics. I've got them queued up and
absolutely.
ready to go.
Great.
You have my email. Just send them on.
I will indeed.
Sometimes I make videos and graphics, but Nigel really does all the social media work.
So the collabs you guys are doing for the month, how many breweries are participating in that?
We've got 33 participating this year. And I think that's our biggest number of breweries participating. And this year we decided to do all IPAs. So the 4 host breweries got together at the beginning of the year and said, I'm going to make this IPA. I'm going to make that IPA. So our first one was a key lime pie milkshake IPA, and we brewed that at Diametric, and it's fantastic.
I was going to mention it. I might have seen those cans.
Yeah. It was a fantastic beer. I was really pleased with how that turned out. And our second beer is a West Coast style IPA. I just happen to have the sample can right here.
Oh,
so it's pretty sexy can. I like it a lot. We brewed that one at Springfield Brewing Company. And that's the one that'll come out on June 7th. So we're looking forward to that one. And then we'll brew a double IPA in the fall, and a cold IPA later on this summer. So we've got a nice little selection for those IPA lovers out there.
Are you familiar with the band Missouri Loves Company?
I am actually. They reached out to me on social media.
Really?
So yeah,
They're
we
so
decided
good.
we need to do a collaboration at some
Yes.
point.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah, if you've never seen them, they're really, really good.
That's cool. That's very
They're-
cool.
They're a fun band. This tessellation is delicious.
Can I have a little bit of that?
Well,
It's not being shared.
I'm not going to pour it left-handed. Okay, this is going to be terrible.
What kind of skills you got there?
I'm not left-handed.
Oh, look at that.
That's not too
well
bad.
done, sir.
You know, when you put me on the spot, I've got to perform.
I should have turned the camera.
What was the ABV on this? Like 7?
I don't remember.
You said you saw it.
I did, but then I forgot. 6.5.
6.7.
Dang it.
6.7.
Ooh, close.
No, this is a good beer. I haven't had this beer in a long time. And we were just at Double Shift the other day.
Well, we might have. So we end up at Double Shift after recording across the alley at Red Sash.
Because they own Double Shift now.
Yes.
And he just keeps putting tasters in front of us. We might have had every beer they had on tap.
Yeah, we were definitely flight attending.
Yes.
I love that.
Flight attending.
The tray tables were in position.
But were you guys upright?
No, they were down because they just kept putting beer on them.
Yeah, I heard.
That was a good day.
Yeah, yeah.
It sounds like a good day.
So are there any things coming? But obviously June's going to be a big month for you guys. But as
Yeah.
far as maybe legislatively or issue wise, are the things you guys are focusing on for like maybe the next year or so?
This year was kind of a legislative wash. I mean, they still have a couple weeks left in the session. They've been focused on some other issues.
I feel
And-
like the legislature is always a wash, right?
It-
Look,
Did they get things done?
If we
Just
want to
saying.
do 20 minutes of bashing on the Missouri legislature,
I mean,
I'm down.
it could happen easily. I have to kind of maybe keep my mouth shut a little bit. Yeah, this year was kind of a wash for any kind of alcohol related bills. And mostly what was out there this year was tidying up some of the language to include distilled spirits and a couple of privileged things that license can do. But other than that, there really wasn't much going on our state level. And on the national level too, we have just been kind of concerned about this debt ceiling stuff happening and how that'll impact the industry. We're keeping an eye on that. And then nationally, we're working on USPS being able to ship beer.
Yeah.
That's something that we've been talking about for quite a while. Now it'll probably take years before beer can be shipped, regularly across the country. But well, right.
I've never sent beer mail ever.
Finger quotes, yeah.
All barbecue sauce.
Right.
Olive oil, product samples.
Shampoo.
Yes. But yeah, that's another issue. Direct to consumer shipping would be something that I think a lot of people would like, consumer wise for sure.
And that one's so weird because
different states are different.
But different, like there's a brewery in California. They don't have a brick and mortar. They're contract brewers. They're on tap in California, but they can't ship in California. But they can ship to other states. So you and I can get on their website and order a case of beer and it comes directly to my house. Whereas, some of these other services don't deliver to a particular zip code. It's the most ridiculous things I've ever heard.
Yes. And it took the wine industry about 20 years to get to the point where they are now.
Yeah.
So I anticipate it'll be an equally uphill battle for the breweries, but it's something that a lot of people, especially since COVID, are very interested in. So we're keeping a close eye on that. I think California had a bill not too long ago that would maybe open that up a little bit across the country. So we're watching that closely because I think, that's usually what happens if one state can pass something
Right.
that helps all the rest of the states that are working toward that. So
Is a lot of that you making relationships, you and other state guilds just kind of making relationships with each other and collectively pushing?
yes, absolutely. Yeah. We all sort of fall under the umbrella of the National, Brewers Association, which covers the whole country.
Right.
And every state has at least someone representing their state at a state guild. Not everyone has a paid staff person like me, but most of them do. And as a result of COVID, we all jump on a call every couple weeks and just chat about what's happening in our states. And that's been super helpful, just to share information and to let, our own members know what's happening in other states. I think it's important to kind of stay abreast of that, because you never know what's going to trickle across the borders and, what we need to be paying attention to. So it's been really, really helpful for us.
Yeah, because that's an interesting thing with like Kansas City bordering Kansas, trying to, make it a situation where it's
equal playing field.
Yeah, because it's and shout out to like Service Brewing on the Kansas side that really pushed the city and the state to be like, well, this food thing is unfair. That whole business about where you got to have 30% of it's just the most ridiculous thing. I mean, I get it. Breweries are doing better when you have food, but to hold a place to that, and and it's a double-edged sword, because some of the places here, the to-go game, you have to have food, and so to skirt some of those things, I'm not going to mention who they are, but they have donuts on the counter. That counts as food, so you can get a to-go cocktail.
Yes.
Case in point. It just reminds me of like when I lived in New Orleans, and you go to the daiquiri shop and they've got the drive-through or the walkout, and they'll put the straw in it, but the paper's on top.
Right.
That makes it legal. Gotta love that.
Well, because it's not open.
No, it's not open.
Right.
and one of my favorite stories of going to New Orleans, you used to be able to get a cocktail through the drive-through, right? Well, they said, no, we're not gonna do it anymore. If you want a cocktail, now mind you, the daiquiri has like Everclear in it, right?
Right.
But if you want an actual mixed drink, you can go in and get it and then leave, but you can't get it through the drive-through.
Right.
Makes perfect sense.
Of course.
Good. We talked to so many people around the country and about their laws and what they have to go through. Probably the most ridiculous one we had talked to. What's the brewery in New Jersey?
Oh, Forest City.
Forest City, and to get a liquor license in that state
could be $1 million.
It's at least 100,000.
Yeah, and it just varies from 100 to $1 million.
Yeah, depending on where you are. And they're a city of, I don't know, over
St. George's.
Yeah, over 100,000 people, and they've got one brewery.
Wow.
Because you can't get a license.
You can't afford it. Yeah.
It's the most. We were like, wow, we thought Kansas and Missouri was bad.
They also had a terrible year with their liquor control, put the smackdown on events at their breweries. And they basically said, a trivia night is considered an event. Watching a football game together is an event. Yes. And they limited the amount of events that these breweries could have. I mean, can you imagine what that impact would be like? That's huge. That's crazy. It's there's people that's what brings them in.
Right. Yeah. We have to turn off the TVs because they're going to call this an event.
Yes.
I mean, isn't it an event because we're there?
Right. We walked in the door. This is an event.
It's an event.
Well, I mean, that's what happens when you walk in the door, Nigel.
It's more like a spectacle.
A farce.
A farce spectacle. Oh my gosh. So if people want to get involved in the guild, just as maybe just consumers, what can they do to contribute?
Well, we actually do have an enthusiast level membership. We call it the MOB, the Missouri Beer Crew. So
that's
you can join the MOB.
That is one of your collabs.
Yeah,
the MOB,
the Missouri MOB.
So we do have that enthusiast level membership available. It's $35 a year. Because we haven't done a lot of festivals, that was our whole goal, was to be able to offer discounted tickets and things like that. But instead we have, just tried to really keep them in the loop about what we're doing as an industry. They get discounts at breweries that are participating, might be the industry discount. It might just be a free beer on your birthday, but there's a lot of little perks at our participating breweries. We've done some, when the collab beers came out, they typically get first crack at those. So we just try to do, throw a few things their way to keep them involved, and we appreciate their support. And they got us through a rough time with the COVID. That was, we reached out to our consumers and said, hey, why don't you join the guild? And a lot of them did. And it's been a great support. And
Well,
we appreciate it.
they drank a lot of beer.
Yes, they did.
I just remember those coats, my refrigerator, because when we did Together
Oh my
We Can
gosh.
at Diametric, I mean, it was some beer. It was beautiful because it was some stuff you might not ever have.
Right.
Nigel's fridge was
So I would
a
just-
picture of
And of course,
fabulousness.
in support of trying to support, every time we did it, I'm like, well, I need some of that.
Right. Yeah.
So that that's a beautiful thing. So that's it's good. Join the guild, kids.
Join the guild.
Get your discounts. Get your perks.
Support
Yes.
the beer.
How do we find you guys on social media where if people want to follow?
Missouri Craft Brewers Guild on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And our website's www.mocraftbeer.com. So join us, follow us, become us. We welcome everyone.
Join the mob, folks.
Join the mob.
Join the mob. That needs to be a marketing campaign right there. I'm just saying. Look, we're gonna give you that one for free.
Thank you.
Well, you'll owe us a favor later.
We're gonna need a collab. Here's with Nigel.
Oh
Mob.
yeah, we should do that too.
That's-
Absolutely.
That's easy, bud. We're ready to do that.
Can't refuse.
It just writes itself. I mean,
And
really-
the
really
jokes
does.
write themselves. Yeah, we're just
Like
facilitators.
butter coming out of my pen.
Is it butter? Butter?
Movie reference. Sorry.
but-
Oh, my bad. I just skipped over that. Anyway, Nick, where can they find us on the socials?
You can find Beers with Nigel on the Facebooks, the tweeters,
The tweeters.
Beer Tweeter. Nigel is an evangelist for Beer Twitter.
Yep.
You can find us on the Instagrams and YouTube.
Yep. We're on YouTube.
And you can listen to Beers with Nigel on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, or most any of your favorite podcast apps. And Sherry, do you have one of those Alexa devices?
no, I don't.
Hey, Alexa, play the Beers with
She
Nigel.
said she didn't have one. I mean,
She needs to get one.
I suppose you could ask Siri to do it.
You probably have Siri or Google.
I bet they would. There's only one podcast called that that we know of.
I don't think we don't have any name competition with that one.
No. all about-
Excellent.
Well, thanks for coming on. Again, stick around because we gotta do what do we gotta do?
Well, we just got to talk to her for a little bit.
Yeah,
Yes.
because technology, it's not instant.
So hang on
Hold on
for like 46 seconds.
Did we tell people good night? Good night. Good morning. It's noon. Good afternoon.
Where are we?
It's beer 30 now. Let's go.
These Sunday podcasts turn into a thing, don't they? It's a
It's a
different
vibe. It's a vibe.
Folks,
it's
it's
a-
Beer 30.
You've been listening to Beers with Nigel, a show about beer and other stuff, hosted by Nigel Woodbury and that other guy, Nick Parker. Beers with Nigel is poured for you by Dire Oil Graphics, providing bumper-to-bumper graphic design, promo products, and print services. Find them at direoil.com. Beers with Nigel is a proud member of the Fredcast Network and is available on all of your favorite podcast flavors. Find Beers with Nigel on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and ask Alexa to play the Beers with Nigel podcast.